Hello!
Hello AOS fans!
It's the Agents of Wyrdhollow.
And in this video I'm playing Myari's Purifiers.
And I'm playing Ephilim's Pandemonium.
Ooh. So this is like a prep game for our forthcoming tournament up at Willen Games, or not at Willen Games, but up in Market Harbour, run by Willen Games. We're just testing out decks really. And I'm trying to Myari's Purifiers deck with the Fearsome Fortress, which worked quite well in our practice. Well, when I played it back in the day, it worked quite well. Back in the day. So I brought it back out again to try. Yeah,
and I've got Ephilim's Pandemonium with the spell deck, basically. It's got all the spells in.
All
of the spells. So no plot card for me. You've got a plot card, but...
Yeah, which I would probably forget to actually use.
So this is going to be one of our usual commentary videos. We're going to be talking you through all the action as you watch it. Do let us know in the comments below if you're liking these videos, and don't forget to like, subscribe and ring that bell.
Absolutely, and if you do want to see even more content, we've started posting extra videos to our Patreon server, so you can go and have a look at lots of lovely content there. And very many big thanks to lots of people who have joined recently, so the community is swollen, almost half as much again almost, which has been lovely. So thanks for joining, and if you do want to come and join the fun, please do.
Yep. So on the initial roll-off for the game, I won and I picked the board first.
I placed the board. I think this is about the first time I played with this deck. I'm still not sure whether I want to offset or not, but I think I've just played them straight up.
I placed one objective right in the middle, knowing that you had a need for 3 objectives because you had a card which was all about holding 3 objectives.
Yes, Myari's got their own little temporary victory.
And knowing you were playing the Fortress deck meant I wanted to try and, you know, keep as many out of that middle line as possible.
Yeah, but little did you know, I don't have that card in hand.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose you wouldn't have known that because I wouldn't have had it in hand when you placed them. But I didn't have it in hand, and I actually redrew everything trying to find it, and I still didn't.
Oh.
So I threw everything away, and I still was really unhappy with my objectives. So I did have stockpile, which was score this at end phase if your warband holds objectives with numbers that add up to 6 or more. 4 and 2 are in my zone, but that is the only way I can get it really, because the other one objective is 1. Not the best objective to get. Patience of the Mountains, score this immediately after an activation if each surviving friendly fighter has 1 or more guard tokens. This card is much better late in the game, or when you've got fighters next to each other, because there's a few shenanigans for putting multiple people on guard at once. I really don't want that turn 1. Conquered Domain, score this in end phase if there is a friendly fighter on a feature token within 1 hex of no one's territory. Give 1 additional glory point for each other fighter on a feature token within 1 hex of no one's territory. Well, there's 2 because I did place that extra hex.
You did, yeah.
So yeah, maybe I'll get on one or t'other of them. Power cards, reasonable draw on the power cards. Only 1 upgrade, which you always like to see turn 1. Bound Spirit, a nice trap. And another trap in Gnarled Tusks. Untouchable Pride, which can heal somebody up or give somebody a guard token, but possibly okay with Patience of the Mountains.
Yep.
Redeploy. Again, this can be useful because I've got a few pushes. You can then push people around further onto feature tokens. So, but again, I probably didn't want it right now.
For my cards, I didn't actually get rid of anything. I don't know whether that was because I was exceptionally happy with them or whether I just had no idea whether I could get better.
It's a bold move with 3 upgrades.
It was, but I think a lot of the upgrades that were there were really nice upgrades that I didn't want to have to try and get later on, and I figured all the objectives I could score without having to worry too much about them. For my objectives, I had Violent Change, which I score immediately after an enemy fighter is taken out of action by my warband's spell attack action, or a warping counter. Well, I'm going to do a lot of spell attack action, so I figured I might as well keep hold of it. Callous Manipulators is next, which is another surge, which I score immediately after an activation or a power step if a friendly changer was taken out of action, or if 2 or more friendly changers are staggered. Well, I'm going to stagger one right at the start, and I can stagger another one very quickly, so that's an almost unstoppable card for me. And Scoreful Stance, which I score in an end phase of a friendly leader is holding an objective. Well, Ephilim's going to be right at the back of the board, standing on an objective, so that's pretty much a given as well. For my power cards, I did have 3 upgrades. Sorcerous Might, which effectively gives the person's spell attack actions Grievous 1. Aura of Mutability gives +1 dice to all attack actions made by friendly chargers within 2 hexes of this fighter, and it has to go on your leader. And Arcane Reach, which gives me +2 range to a maximum of 6 to the first range 2+ spell attack action made by a friendly fighter, or a friendly wizard rather. I also have Ayara's Repelling Shield, which means this fighter cannot be driven back, and it also gives me a reaction that after an enemy fighter ends a move adjacent to this fighter, I can stagger that enemy fighter. So if you do decide to go after Ephilim, it just means it's going to be a bit easier to hit back.
Opposites do not, in fact, attract.
They do not. And the last one is Channeled Power. This is my only spell at the start here, but as I don't have any cards around casting spells, I figured that was actually okay for me. If the caster is holding an objective, then the spell is cast automatically, so I Probably going to move them onto objective very early to make it an automatic cast. And it's a Gambit spell that if it's cast, I get +1 wizard level, which could make them up to a level 3. So at the start of the game, I roll 1 of each.
And I only get a double and a single, no crit for me.
But I am going to make you go first. But before that, my pandemoniums must kick in. I decide to inspire Apatrax. I stagger Flamespuler, because I don't think he's in a position where he's going to be too vulnerable right now. I put a guard token on Kindlefinger, and I push Spawnmaw into the cover hex just to give him a bit of defence.
I get straight down to it, and I charge with Bachanar onto the objective, attacking Kindlefinger, and I do get a crit.
But I roll a crit shield.
Yeah, the banhammer has been banned. And I play Untouchable Pride to put Bachanar on guard.
I then, on my first activation, charge with Kindlefinger into the Stagger Hex for some strange reason. And attack...
Stagger Hex?
A Stagger Hex? And I attack Banhammer. And I get a crit success.
I only get a success, so I take 1 damage.
I then score Callous Manipulators, making it 1-0 to me, and draw into Might of the Great Changer.
Okay, so for my second activation, I have a big debate with myself, and it's really long and takes ages, and Pete's cut all that out, so you don't have to see it. Basically, what it boiled down to, I was trying to decide whether to sort of be risky, make some charges, or whether just to go for the simple Patience of the Mountains surge objective, and I decided to go for that. So in the end, I go for boring, and I just put Myari on guard.
On my second activation, I charge with Flamespuler, and I attack Alien. I get a crit.
I got nothing. How many crits have you rolled already?
Many
it's me
already.
who rolls the crits, not you. You did 1 damage, and you place 1 warp token on her and Sedalia. I forgot about not putting my people together.
Yes, yes, so that's another damage on each of them at some point.
Yeah.
I then score the Might of the Great Changer because of it, making it 2-0, and I draw into Glorious Change.
Activation 3, having had a massive debate with myself in the previous round, I don't bother this time, I just put Sedalia straight on guard.
I then put Sorceress Smile on Ephilim to give him the Grievous 1. I then try to cast Channel Power and get a double crit. Hooray, another double crit. Oh no, wait, that's not even good. So I take a damage on that one, but I do cast a spell giving Ephilim +1 wizard level, putting up to level 3.
Wow.
I then also play Arcane Reach to give him +2 range on his next attack, giving him a range of 6. Much range, much damage, much dice. On my third go, I then charge onto the objective and shoot at Alien, and I get 2 swirls.
And I deflect it with a crit. I was actually sneakily hoping you would kill Alien there, because that meant I would have immediately scored Patience of the Mountains, because the other 3 are all on guard.
Yeah.
But you didn't. Activation 4 was very exciting, and I put Alien on guard.
We also forgot at this point that Alien should be inspired, because you did get full successes on your defence.
Completely forgot that, yes. I do then score Patience of the Mountains, having put her on guard, and it goes to 2-1. And I draw into Purifying Light. Ooh. With my Solitary Glory, I then put Stalwart Sentinel on Bahamar to stop him from being pushed, to stop Apatrax from pulling him out of position, because he can't be driven back because he's on guard, but actually he could have been pulled by Apatrax, but now you can't.
I then play the Aura of Mutability onto Ephilim to give friendly changers within 2 hexes a +1 dice on their attacks. Guess what's coming? On my fourth go, Spawnmaw charges Banhammer. I roll 4 dice, I get a sword and a crit.
Oh, I do get 2 successes, but I don't get a crit. But I can use his token to reroll defence, but I just get another shield. And Bahanar dies.
And it's 3-1 to me. I then put Iara's Repelling Shield onto Ephilim so that she can't be driven back. So at the end of round 1, I score Scornful Stance for having a leader on an objective, making it 4-1. I decide to keep the other 2 cards that I've got. I draw 1 objective and 5 new power cards. And
because Bahanar is dead, I don't score anything. I would have got a bit of Conquered Domain, but I didn't. So
not much more to say about it.
So I chuck Stockpile and Conquered Domain, because Bahanar's dead and he's my best bet of holding on to one of those. So he's gone. And I also get rid of Bound Spirit and Gnarlwood Tusks, because those cards involve needing adjacent fighters, and your attacks are all range, and I don't think I'm going to see much adjacency. I mean, now I've thrown them away, I will.
Probably.
But yeah, so I decided to... They're good cards against certain warbands, but against Ephilims, they just seem a bit weak. So they were in the bin. Okay, we forgot to show off our cards to ourselves. So I've only got 4 of my power cards, but I've got Channel the Mountain. Choose 1 friendly fighter and I can remove their Ether Quartz counter. If I do, I can give them a guard token.
That would have been useful in the previous
Would
round.
have been useful in the previous round. But it is useful for the Earthworks objective that I have, which is score this immediately after a friendly fighter is given a guard token, if that fighter's on a token within 1 hex of no one's territory.
Yep.
If only Bahanar was still with us. Then I've also got Take Your Positions, which is a really nice card. Choose up to 2 friendly fighters in your territory other than the leader and push them 1 hex towards the nearest feature token. Mountain Stance enables Bahanar to ignore Cleave and gives him extra damage if he has no move or charge token, which is a pretty nice card.
Nice.
Show he's dead, and then Channel the Wind, choose 1 friendly fighter, and I can remove that fighter's Aether Quartz crystals. If I do, deal 1 damage up to 2 enemy fighters within 2 hexes. Actually a really, really good card. Otherwise, you can just do one damage to 1 enemy fighter, but
it's still a nice
it's still
card.
a really good card. Objective-wise, I've got Earthworks, as I've already mentioned. Bold Sortie, score this immediately after an activation step, in which a friendly fighter's charge action began on a feature token in my territory. Very handy with the push that I've got.
Yep.
And Elemental Blessing, score this immediately after I remove an Aether Quartz crystal from a fighter when you resolve an elemental ploy. Well, again, fairly useful at this point.
Fantastic with Channel the Mountain. For me, I forgot to show off one of my objective cards, but I do have Glorious Change, which I score at the end of the round if 2 or more surviving friendly changes each have 1 or more upgrades, or 2 or more enemy fighters each have 2 or more wound counters or are out of action, which should be relatively simple considering one of your guys is already dead and one of them already has 2 wounds. I also have Claim the Prize, which is a dual card that I also score in the end phase if my warband holds each objective in 1 or more territories, including no one's territory, and my warband holds 2 or more objectives in those territories. So basically I get 3 glory for holding 2 objectives in my side, as long as I'm holding all of the objectives in my side. So that's a fantastic one at the end of the round for me. For my power cards, I have 2 upgrades and 3 spells this time round. I have Quintoc's Unseen Hand, which effectively gives me a spell action which enables me to either push or stagger someone depending on what I roll. I also have Abasoth's Screaming Idols, which is a fantastic one which enables me to move an objective token and then deal 1 damage to whoever's on that objective token. I've got Shared Mutations, which is a 2 lightning spell, but if I cast it, I deal 1 damage to each enemy fighter that's adjacent to 1 or more friendly changes, which is an absolutely amazing card. Aether Tether is my other upgrade. It's an illusion, so I don't need to spend a glory on it, and it will then obviously disappear at the end of the round or when the fighter takes damage, and it basically does -1 dice from all of your attacks targeting that fighter. They don't even have to be adjacent. And the last one I've got is Mind Wipe, and this is a funky one where you either choose lightnings or swirlies before you decide what you're going to roll, and then depending on what you choose, if you choose lightnings, 1 enemy fighter within 4 hexes of the caster is picked, and the chosen fighter cannot hold objectives for the rest of the round, which is not so good. But swirlies, which you're nearly always going to go for when you're rolling 3 or 4 dice, if you cast that, you can pick 1 feature token within 4 hexes and move that feature token, which could come in quite handy alongside Abasoth's Screaming Idols. On to round 2, and I just get a single this time.
And I do get a crit.
Boom. At the start of the round, and this is where things start to get confusing with the start of round, because they're using that a lot, but they're not really saying where in the sequence that should occur. But at the start of the round, both Alien and Snalia have warp tokens turned into wound tokens. So one of them's up to 1 wound, one's up to 2.
Ouch, ouch, ouch.
You then opt for me to go first, but before any of that happens, I have to do my Pandemoniums again. This time I inspire Flame Spuler, which then also inspires Ephilim, because I have 2 of my changes are inspired. I stagger the Stairfish, and I put Kindlefinger on guard to keep him just immobile right in the middle of the board there, and I push Sporemaw onto the objective. So for my first activation, I then charge with Flame Spuler, and I shoot at Myari, but I also position myself so I'm right next to your other 2 fighters.
Oh.
I get another double crits, and this is where we're slightly confused. We're assuming these are magical attacks, so Flame Spuler does take wound despite the fact that they're not actually wizards.
Yeah, it's not. I think as rules as written, you probably wouldn't. I think we decided that rules as intended, you probably would.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be an FAQ to disprove that at some point in the near future.
Almost certainly. But I don't get a double crit, funny enough, and I take a wound and a warp token.
So Myari will be down to 1 wound left at the beginning of round 3. I then try to cast Shared Mutations. I then get exactly what I needed, a double lightning on those dice, and both Alien and Snalia take 1 wound, killing Alien, making it 5-1.
Going well.
Such an OP set of cards.
I do feel that Ephilim are very powerful, and particularly since I've been absolutely wrecked.
Yeah, considering I've only got 2 fights left.
I've only put people on guard really so far. I do play Take Your Positions to push Snalia back onto the objective.
I then play Aether Tether, which is my illusion upgrade, onto Flame Spuler to make all of your attacks -1 dice against him, just to make him, because he's right in the middle of your territory right now.
I then salvage the mountain stance upgrade and draw a new one.
Possibly the first time I think we've ever salvaged, ever. Yep. Not that we haven't had this chance in the past, but we've just always forgotten.
So spawn board's in the middle of the board. I'm going to charge with Senalia, and I get 2 hammers, which I would have inspired, but I didn't notice because I was so desperate to get the attack, I think.
Yeah, I only have 1 dice because he is not inspired at this point, and I failed to get anything and take the 1 damage.
But I do just score Bold Sortie because Senalia was on a feature token.
Yep.
So that was really good, and I draw into Proud Castellan.
The score is now 5-2.
5-2, and I play Channel the Mountain to give Senalia a guard token, which means I score Earthworks.
Oh.
And I draw into Purifying Light.
5-3 now.
5-3, yes. And I then also score Elemental Blessings and draw into Lethal Defences. 5-4. Little flurry of surge cards.
One attack, and suddenly everything's all back level again almost.
Pete then tries to cast Mind Wipe so that I forget that I scored those glory.
So I can just throw them aside. I do pick Swirlies, and I get a Swirly and a crit, so I manage to push the Hex out from under Senalia that she's standing on.
And that's when we notice that Senalia should be inspired.
Which is only so good because then I try and cast Abersoth's Screaming Idol, which I do succeed in, and I push the Hex under Senalia and then kill her.
So, inspired no longer.
Back to 6-4 to me now.
And I've only got 1 fighter left.
1 fighter left.
In the second activation of turn 2.
And I've got all of my fighters
I'm
still.
not very happy with my Myari's deck, and I'm thinking maybe I won't take it.
So my second activation, I just move Kindlefinger back onto the objective, lining myself up for that hold all the objectives in my half objective in a little while.
For my round 2, there isn't really much I can do, so I shoot with Myari, even though I'm going to lose a dice. But I miss.
Boo. On my third activation, I move Apatrax the Starfish up onto the objective.
I wonder what you're up to. So for my third activation, I do decide to charge with Myari. I charge Apatrax. I do get a hammer when I attack, and I'm inspired.
Inspired. I do get nothing on my defence, so Apatrax gets splatted. 5-6 now.
Yeah, and I actually scored Lethal Defences at that point.
Oh.
And so so it's 6-all. I draw into Perfect Formation, which is quite hard to score with only 1 fighter.
Yeah. My fourth activation, I just zap at Myari with Ephilim, but I miss entirely.
And that was quite important for me, I feel.
Yes, I think if I'd have got that off, he'd be dead. That would have been the end of the game at that point.
It absolutely would. I put the Walking Wall on Myari, which means he's got a walking feature token under him now.
Yep. And I put Quintox's Unseen Hand onto Ephilim so that if I have a card which means I need to cast lots of spells, I can just knock you around all over the place without having to worry about killing you off the bat.
So for my final activation, I try to hit Spawnmore with Myari and I get a crit.
Spawnmore does not save it and dies.
So despite my, being bashed around having hardly any fighters left, it is actually 6-7.
Yeah, I'm now behind and I've lost 2 fighters in as many rounds to one of your fighters.
Yeah, Myari is leading the rear guard.
He's pretty annoyed. Now, normally, whenever my rear guard action happens, I score like 2 glory and it finishes 20-2. And now suddenly your rear guard action and you're ahead 7-6.
This deck does score a reasonable amount of glory if things happen for you.
Yeah.
Kindlefinger inspires.
He does because he's the only uninspired fighter of everybody left, so he feels a bit left behind.
Oh. And I play Channel of the Wind and deal 1 damage to Flame Spooler.
At the end of that round, I do score Glorious Change, making it 8-7, and claim the prize, making it 11-7. I keep the last objective, and I draw 2 more objectives and 5 power cards.
So a bit of a swing back in your favour there. You managed to get those end phase objectives out. I do manage to score Purifying Light and Proud Castellan happily. They go well together, those 2 cards. And I get rid of Perfect Formation, because I'm not going to score it. And I draw up my last 3 objectives and 5 power cards. I've got my cards. I realise here that I must have missed a card out of the deck. I've got 2 objectives left. I've got Pursuit of Excellence, score this in end phase if 1 or more surviving friendly fighters each have 3 or more upgrades. And Vaunted Speed, score this in end phase if a surviving friendly fighter has a higher move characteristic than any of the other surviving fighters. If I can survive, I will almost certainly score those. Yep. Particularly the Pursuit of Excellence, because all the upgrades will be going on Myari.
All going on Myari, yeah.
Talking of upgrades, I've got the Hearthstone Amulet, which is a very handy card, because when the fighter's dealt damage, reduce the damage by 1 to a minimum of 1, except Myari's only got 1 wound at the moment. Hardy Scout, can't give it to a large fighter, but it's very good for the Myaris, because none of them are. It's +1 move, so that will help me with vaulted speed, and it can be +1 move when I'm not in my territory. Not sure I'm going to go wandering into your territory, but we'll see. Channel the River, I can remove the fighter's Aether Quartz crystals. If I do, I can push them up to 3 hexes. I've got the Tanglebriar, which means I can put a snare hex down within 1 hex of 1 or more friendly fighters. Now I've got Redeploy, which is useful with Walking Wall, because I can push Myari anywhere I like, really, because he's permanently on a feature token.
Yeah. I, however, have hit a little bit of a stumbling block with my cards. I have 4 upgrades, which doesn't help me. Also, all of the cards I have in hand for my objectives aren't very helpful. I have Violent Change, which I score immediately after an enemy fighter is taken out of action by my Warband's spell attack actions or my Warband's warp encounters, which, if I'm lucky, I might be able to then score that. I have Ineffable Capering, which is scoring at end phase if my warband casts 1 or more spells during the preceding action phase and my warband makes a range 1 attack action. Well, I have nobody with range 1 attack action, so I won't be scoring that one. And I have Rampant Spellcasting, a score in the end phase if my warband casts 3 or more spells in the preceding action phase, or I have no power cards in my hand and there are 3 or more gambits in my power discard pile. Now I realise I could score that one, but I didn't read the second part of it. I just need to put all of the upgrades onto Ephilim basically and use the power card, so I completely forgot about that. Moral of this story is read your cards. Of my power cards, like I say, I have 4 upgrades. Quintox Reactive Shunter, which is another reaction upgrade, which enables me, when I'm pushed away, to basically push the fighter back again. Nefarious Defences, which is a reaction I can use during an attack action that targets the fighter. If the attack action succeeds, I can reduce the damage by 1, and then I have to put that damage onto a visible changer within 2 hexes, which is nice early in the game if I've got lots of chains around that I can siphon that damage onto. Spiteful Mouths, which is another reaction that you can use when the fighter is the target of an attack action. I hadn't realised when I put this in that this is actually a changer-specific card, but it's quite nice to have something that's not all about Ephilim in there. And it basically means that if the attacker is within 2 hexes of the fighter they're attacking who has this card, if I get a success or a critical success on my defence, you take a damage, which is quite nice, a bit of ping damage there. I finally get the Fires of Change out, which I think this first game I've actually got that card out, and this is the range 4, 3 swords, 2 damage attack that damages and heals everybody or around the target.
Broken.
It is a broken card. And then the last one is Celestial Surge, which the next time a friendly wizard that's holding an objective attempts to cast a spell, the wizard has +1 wizard level.
Just go back to the Fires of Change. It's not even a spell.
No, it's not even a spell.
It says use during this attack action, so a reaction, after the deal damage step for each fighter within 1 hex of the target. And the way the rules are normally interpreted, that would also include the target.
Yep.
So that's effectively a 3 damage attack. And people around it, and you could possibly heal people up around it. It's just broken. Do you think they meant it to be like that? Do you think
I think it should be everybody else,
and
not the person who's hit. And I think
I'd
hope that they will FAQ it to say that, because it is broken as at the minute.
Yeah.
It does have the interesting thing that obviously if you can't heal someone, if they haven't taken the wound, you do have to damage them.
Yeah.
So there is that aspect to it as a little bit of a drawdown if you've got a lot of your own fighters in the way. But if they're already damaged, then you're just going to be healing them. This also combines really nicely with the other upgrade that Ephilim already has, which gives him Grievous 1, which means you could be doing 3 damage on a crit, putting it up to 4 at the moment the way the card is written. It's a disgusting card.
It is a disgusting card.
On to round 3 and what feels like almost a foregone conclusion, one of the most vital roles in the game, and I only get 2 singles.
Can I get a crit and 2 doubles?
And
I decide I'm going to go first.
It's weird. I don't know why. I just didn't see that coming. I have to do my pandemoniums before all of that. I can only stagger someone at this point because I only have 2 changes left and both of them are inspired. So I decide to stagger Kindlefinger because he's further back in the board and I think he's probably safer from Myari's swinging hammer.
So I'm going first and I decide I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to hit Flame Spooler because you haven't got the protection of the Ether Tether anymore.
No.
So I roll a crit and a double assist and I actually use the token to re-roll, but I do only get a sword.
And you need hammers, so that's no good. But I fail to get anything whatsoever, so Flame Spooler dies. And the score is 11-10.
Yeah. I play Tanglebriar to put a hex down next to Myari just to keep things interesting. I play Channel the River to push Myari back 1 hex. And then I play Redeploy because Myari's got Walking Wall on him. And that means he's on a feature token, which means I can just push Redeploy, use it to push him wherever I like on the board. And then I put, finally, the Hearthstone Amulet on Myari, which is a clutch card to have at this point in time.
It is if you can get some more wounds on him, because right now he's only got 1 wound left, so even reducing a 1 damage attack, it can't go below 1s. But you do have other cards that you're hoping to draw into for that one.
I might.
So on to my first activation, and I've kind of lost sight of the fact that rampant spellcasting is doable for me if I just put all of my upgrades on and use my Celestial Surge power card. And I kind of get a bit tunnel visioned on trying to kill Myari. So for my first activation, I just moved Ephilim up. This is possibly a mistake, and I should have just started drawing power cards or drawing new objectives to see if I could have got something better.
In round 2, I draw Mountain's Gift.
I then put Spiteful Mouths on Ephilim, but I forgot that it's a changer only one, so I should have put it on Kindle Finger, but it didn't really make much difference at the end of the day. On to my second activation, I move Ephilim up close to Myari, and I'm positioned now so that you can't actually get past me without me getting at least one shot off at you.
I play Hardy Scout on Myari, which gives him an extra wound.
Yep.
Meaning that
I have to do 3 damage to kill him
now. And it gives him +1 move, which will be useful for Vaunted Speaks. I think that makes me faster than the rest of you now.
It does, yep.
And I do actually move Myari up to the middle of the board.
Very close to Ephilim. I think you debated for a little while charging, and then you realised, no, if I do that, I won't be able to move again.
Yeah.
On my third go, the absolute pinnacle moment, it has to happen here if it's going to happen. I decide to make an attack against Myari with Ephilim, and I get 2 swirlies.
And I fail to block and take 1 damage due to the amulet. And then that keeps me alive because I am now not in my territory, so I don't die.
Yeah, made a few mistakes here. Should have put the Fires of Change on Ephilim early because I would have been doing at least 2 damage at that point, and he would have been dead at this stage. But I would have been only rolling swords, but I would have been rolling 3 swords rather than 2 swirlies. So
yeah. For my fourth, I get Myari out of dodge. Get him out of the range with Ephilim.
And on my fourth and final go, my only hope is to attack with Kindle Finger because he will do 2 damage, which will be enough to kill you, even with your -1 damage Heartstone Amulet. And I get 1 lightning.
And then true to form, I get a crit.
So into the end phase of the 3rd and final round.
And amazingly, I have scored both of my final objectives. I scored Vaunted Speed to make it 11 all, and I did score Pursuit of Excellence because of all the upgrades that Myari has on him. And it makes it 13-11. But surely Pete is going to score something.
No! Because I completely forgot to put all of my cards from my hand onto my fighters or play them, so I didn't score Rampant Spellcasting. Obviously I didn't kill you with my attack, so I didn't score Violent Change. I didn't do enough to get Ineffable Capering because I didn't have a range 1 attack, so I scored nothing.
Nothing. And if you had scored Rampant Spellcasting, which you could have scored, it would have been 13 all, and you had more fighters set. So you would have won on that sneaky tiebreak.
Now, we didn't say this at the start of the game, but before we recorded that game, we played 2 other games, and in both of them, I got absolutely annihilated.
They're both available on Patreon if you want to pay to see Pete get absolutely annihilated.
In one of them, Robin spat in my face after beating me absolutely to death. So
I almost feel like we need to put that little clip on, just out of the video.
And so maybe I wasn't quite thinking fully with my head on this one, and I just wanted to try and kill Myari. Mistakes were made. Read your cards, Pete, is all I can take from this. Read your cards.
Yeah, what can I say? Fantastic rearguard action. Bloody jammy again.
It's just so very close. It nearly had him if it hadn't been for those meddling kids. By the middle of round 2, you only had 1 fight left with 1 wound left. It was just ludicrous.
Yeah, and you didn't even have the Fires of Change.
No.
On there at that point. It is the damage output, the ping damage output for them, and the damage output for them is immense. Myari's, the deck works really nicely, but as I also discovered when I played against John, once they start to go down, they go down pretty badly. So,
and they only have 3 wounds each. So even though they can go on guard, if an attack can get through that, they're just paced.
They are. So I'm maybe back to the drawing board with this one, or maybe I'll give it up for my Soul Raid deck. Hopefully we'll show you one of those games in the not too distant future.
But all the games we're playing are on Patreon, so do check that out.
Absolutely. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did.
Me less so. Well, I was loving the first 2 rounds at least, and it all went to pot after that.
We did say it was a good game.
It was a good game. It was a good game.
I think we both much rather have a game like that than an absolute pasting for either one of us.
Absolutely. If you've got any comments about how you found the video, do leave them below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell.
Yeah, and we'll see you soon somewhere in the Wyrdhollow. Bye!